Oh, hey, my name is Ryan Moore, and here on the Game or Die channel, we're going to be reviewing Cold VR, and I should probably put this away. Safety first. Anyways, Cold VR is a super hot style game where in super hot, time moved when you moved. It's reversed here in Cold VR. When you move, your character and the world around you is in slow motion. But if you stop, everything moves at a normal or kind of a little bit of a breakneck speed. It's a VR game, and I've been playing VR since 2014 with the Oculus Dev Kit 2. I even made my own proposal game in 2016, and I love video games. I love VR. And this is a great game made by a single developer. I know how hard it can be to create your own game. And man, I think they did a really, really good job. Yes, there are some caveats. There are some issues with this game, and we'll get into them in just a moment. But I really think that Cold VR is a great first step for this developer. Now, when I played Cold VR, when they released a demo back in the summer of 2024, I had some issues with it. The audio straight up didn't work. And so I kind of restarted it and we were streaming it. And, I had an okay time with it, but it wasn't anything to write home about. Now, come release time, February of 2025, the game is in a much better state. It's super hot with a different gimmick style. If you want to put that, as like the basis of what you're getting with this game, yes, it's that. But there's a lot more going on with it, and I really appreciate it. When you jump into this game, you're greeted with, kind of a little train sequence where you are being told that you are in an operating system. Once you get plopped down, you open up an elevator and go into a room, and you're meted with a FMV cutscene. Yeah, FMV, full motion video, man. Back a few years ago, this was kind of coming back into style with a lot of AAA games. We had a whole EA Need for Speed game that used FMV, and we were getting a lot of other FMV games, but it kind of died down pre-pandemic. And now I think it's starting to come back, and I really dig it. So you have this coder or developer in FMV form telling you that something's gone wrong. The people are knocking outside the door. They're trying to find me, and I need you, the player, to help me, do something. The plot is a little bit on the easygoing side. They don't really explain a whole lot, but once you get dropped into the actual game world and you are presented with levels, that's where the gameplay shines. You are in this very abstract, bright world where everything has a lot of vector lines and isn't fully rendered or textured, and you are greeted with a bunch of enemies, and you have to kind of kill them, right? So when you are taking care of the enemies, you are able to move around, and as you move around, everything's in slow motion. And you get a bunch of weapons. You get a lot of melee weapons, and you get some guns. Now, one of my favorite things about VR is not only is it really good for first-person shooters, but it actually takes a first-person shooter and amplifies it because of what you can do in virtual reality. Is one of my favorite things I talk about. When in VR, you actually are able to move around the environment with your motion controller so that you can still duck, but you can blind fire by actually physically moving your arms around corners and above and below things, and you can actually get the shot off and take care of enemies without getting hit. And that is incredible. It's one of my favorite things to show off in VR. Now, this game is basically a string of levels, all connected with, unfortunately, not really any narrative. There are a few cutscenes, with FMV, and there are a few in-game cutscenes with an NPC that you are, I think, chasing. There's a couple of levels that I actually did see the enemy, kind of walk through, and it seems like you're chasing him down. But that is so few and far between, and it was just kind of a little bit of a glimpse. It's barely recognizable. Every level is a little bit different. You're in some urban environments, you're in some tech environments, you're in a church, you're in a a rail yard or a trainway, city park, even a pirate ship. But there's no narrative connecting any of those levels together. They're just all hodgepodge and random. But that's not to say it's a bad thing. It was really fun being able to go, wait, I'm standing on a pirate ship mast and be able to have a sword in my hand and jump down and slice through, the guy standing at the wheel, which would have been like a captain. You can kind of think about it like the Animus in Assassin's Creed. But there's no narrative, and every character is just a blue polygon man. There's no textures, there's no coloring other than blue for the enemies. There's very little color in the entire game other than blue and grays and white. But that's not to say it's a bad thing. It's a art design choice, and I think they nail it exactly. They took a lot of what Superhot did and kind of tweaked it a little bit to make it unique and their own. One of my biggest issues was just the fact that when I was playing the game, other than narrative, because I'm a big story guy, I think there was a lot of times where I didn't feel like I was, when I would get hit and I would have to restart the level over, I felt like that was a little bit unfair. Like the hitbox was a little bit larger than what I felt it should have been. I'm a big guy, so I get it. But at the same time, I felt like there was a lot of times where I'm hiding and ducking under a box or a corner, and there's a guy on the other side and I'm still getting hit. And that happened quite a few times, which, definitely did lengthen a little bit of the gameplay. It's still a short game at about 2.5 hours, but that's not to say that's a bad thing. I love those types of experiences. Another issue that I came across was, and this is probably the biggest one, in the middle of the game, you are broken from the normal, everyone's trying to shoot and fire at you and they're coming around and you're in these virtual environments, to the backroom areas. In the backroom areas, it actually pops up a menu system that says, hey, this next level that you're about to play is horror themed, and that could be very scary for some players. So you have the choice of either skipping the level or playing it. And I've been playing games since 1988. I'm not going to skip a game or a level in a game. So I obviously chose to play it. And what I was greeted with was a very frustrating experience. The first section was it was trying to be more something like Doom 3, Monster Closet type of survival horror, where you only have a flashlight, you have no weapons, and you have to navigate this completely dark, very dark space. And you're looking around and then jump scare, right? And I'm not a fan of jump scares. Now, if you watch the full playthrough video on my channel, you'll see me react in real time.
You hold the flashlight like this, not like this. I mean, if we're not holding a gun, I don't know. Jeez, freaking crap. Okay. All right, game, I see what you're doing.
Oh no, that was a jump scare. Oh, I didn't like that. And I move on. But I've already seen a lot of people who do the whole hyper reactive where they're screaming and crying. And I just think that's ridiculous. People don't actually react like that. So I'm just calling that out. Anyways, but the other part of the backroom experience is once you find the exit in that little flashlight area, you get dropped into like a Max Payne nightmare level where everything is in red and blacks. The music is droning and zoning out, and it's overwhelming in a very uncomfortable and uneasy way. But my biggest issue with that wasn't the way that it looked or the music that was going on or the ambiance that was happening. It was the design of the level. Basically, you're thrown into a maze that is extremely hard to navigate while having to constantly move. And the locations of these mazes have no identifiable objects to help you understand your location and where you are in relation to anything else. Everything looks the exact same thing. It's like trying to navigate a forest at nighttime while having to constantly move because you are being chased by enemies. And if those enemies see you and grab you or touch you, you have to reset. And again, resetting doesn't help because you have no idea where you are. So that was kind of one of my biggest frustrations with the entire game, was those backroom areas. After about 5 minutes of just wandering around being bored out of my mind, I decided to skip all the rest of them because I did play a few of them. And then I just, at some point, I said, I have to skip this, or this is going to be very boring, very boring playthrough where it's just me wandering around 5-10 minutes. And by the way, I found one of the exits finally after like 8 minutes, and it disappeared and said, go find another one. And I just went, I'm done. So that is honestly my biggest criticism in the game, is the backroom sections. Now, once you get through all the levels, the game kind of ends. And there was no credits. It could have been a bug. And I still had a really good time. One of my favorite things about it was the menu. Yeah, that sounds a little bit weird, right? When you start up the game, you're presented with an actual title screen menu where you can continue or start a new game. And if you look over, there's just like this random black space where there is options to do smooth turning the vignette for motion sickness on or off, and a few other extra things, audio, graphic styles. But it's so hodgepodge that it just feels like it's in beta still. And also, some of the menus in the in-game menu system feel that way. But when you go to the menu system, it's really cool because it's all playable. I like to call it as playable menus, where you are able to navigate the world in a little hub area, and you've got a shooting gallery. You can pick up items. You can go over to a computer and you can see, the menu on a screen, or you can actually even do level select. However, the level select section will be presented to you at any time you play. So if it's your first time playing through and you go into the menu, you basically get a view of how many levels there are, what the names are, and even screenshots of the level. And for a first time player, that might be either information overload, or it just might be spoiler territory. And I'm not crazy about spoilers, like, oh my gosh, I have to plug my ears anytime someone says something. But at the same time, I want to be surprised. I want to let that narrative drive me through the game. And when I know when the game is going to end, when I know what the names of the levels are and where I'm going to be going, just by seeing a menu when I didn't want to, that's a little bit of an issue. So like I said, this game seems like it's developed and being a little bit pushed out, maybe a tad bit early, but at some point, you gotta release the game, right? And because this is an indie game and the gaming industry has been changing so much, so rapidly over the last several years, we have to kind of start thinking about reviewing games and talking about games and understanding games in different ways. With indie games, you have to give a little bit more lenience to certain things. Small, minor bugs where a character glitches out or you fall through, a level. As long as it's not game breaking, as long as it doesn't impede progress or cause a drastic, massive issue, it's okay. But if it's a critical issue, if it's something that deletes your game save, or if you have to, if the game cannot be progressed at all, that's a massive critical issue that needs to be addressed and also talked about in a review. But for small little things, I think we can be a little bit more lenient. So something like the menu system wouldn't be something that I would go, oh my gosh, everyone needs to be aware of this. I just like talking about games. That's my favorite thing in the world to do, is play and talk about video games. And so I want to commend the developer of this game. They did a fantastic, awesome job. Are there things that can be improved and need to be improved? Of course there are. But as long as they learn from those mistakes, that's where they shine. And I think it sounds like the developer is taking heart as the embargo has been now lifted and reviews are starting to come out. he's going, I'm learning some stuff. I even saw a post on X about him saying that the reviews have kind of shined some light on some little things that he's going to be able to be improving upon. So by the time you buy this game in its 1.2 or 1.5 version, a lot of those little small things can be completely removed and gone. Those bugs will no longer exist. So I really like that. I think that's awesome about the video game industry, is that the developers are willing to listen to the reviews and able to actually correct them. So anything that I talk about in this review that might sound like a big bummer or a downer, those can be resolved. There was nothing in my playthrough that just drastically caused me to go, this I cannot recommend. I emphatically recommend this game. It's a $20 game, and you're going to get about 2.5 to 3 hours out of gameplay if you don't play games often in VR. If you are not a veteran of VR combat arena gameplay style, then you're going to probably get about 3 hours out of it. If you're more familiar with that, you're going to get about probably maybe 1.5, 2 hours. And price point, we all have to remember everything's way more expensive than it used to be. Video games take years to develop, and a price point of $20 is nothing to sneeze at. But at the same time, it's not that bad. This is a normal indie game price, and I think it's absolutely worth it for what we get. Now, I do hope that those bugs and those little menu system issues and things like that do get resolved to polish it to make it a much more easy recommendation, but it's still a recommendation anyways. So if you want to try out Cold VR, it's on Steam, it's on the MetaQuest, and I believe there's a PSVR or PS2 or PlayStation 2 VR, PlayStation VR 2. Sorry, I don't have that headset, but it is on Steam, it is on MetaQuest, and it is, I believe, on the PlayStation VR as well. And it is a really fun Superhot style game. So if you played Superhot and you want something new and similar, this is a great game for it. Until the next review, my name is Ryan Moore. You can always check out my stuff at gameordie.net. You can always check out the Discord as well, where we give away free games and we have great game discussions. Every week we do a question of the week. And check out other reviews and videos. I also stream every night at 11 p.m. Central on Twitch, YouTube, Kick, X, and Rumble. So yeah, I like playing video games. I used to own a video game store. I'm never going to stop playing video games. So if you want to know more about me or the stuff that I play, check some stuff out. There's billions of ways. All right. Until next time, take care. God bless, and I'll see you later.